You know that kind of person who walks into a room and instantly becomes the center of gravity, like everyone else is just revolving around them? That's exactly what happened when Rachel Zegler arrived at Evita rehearsals. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't calm. She came in like a storm, loud, intense, and totally convinced she was the moment. At first, the crew tried to adapt. Maybe she was just deeply invested in the role. Maybe her intensity would spark something brilliant. But that hope faded fast. Ambition turned into control, and rehearsals started to feel like emotional captivity. From the outside, it all looked picture perfect. Rachel had landed the iconic role of Eva Perron, a character that had launched careers, earned awards, and left a lasting legacy. For someone hoping to move past her Disney image and online backlash, this was the perfect reset. Critics called the casting bold. Theater sites were buzzing with praise. Fans saw this as her comeback story, a second chance to shine for real. But behind the scenes, total mayhem. It started with small red flags. She'd show up late, ignore advice from vocal coaches, change choreography on the spot, like she was directing the show herself. People gave her grace at first. After all, big names often come with strong personalities. But this was more than that. Rachel wasn't tweaking things. She was tearing them down. She wanted Evita to feel less like a musical and more like her personal statement piece. Insiders say she clashed with the director constantly, telling him things like, "You don't get Eva like I do," or "This scene has to scream feminine rage." Creative passion is one thing, but when every rehearsal feels like a war zone, people start to burn out. Soon, the cast was walking on eggshells. No one dared correct her. No one could question her choices. Even a poorly timed breath could trigger a cold stare or a full-blown outburst. One backstage source said even veterans with decades of stage time were getting sidelined just for offering input. And sadly, that wasn't the worst of it. Crew members began requesting shift changes just to avoid working during her scenes. The wardrobe team had to remake her costume 5 separate times because, in her words, it didn't honor Eva's feminist evolution. An assistant choreographer reportedly said she was the most draining performer they'd ever encountered. And then came the breaking point during a full run of New Argentina. Mid-song, Rachel stopped cold, threw her hands in the air, and yelled, "I'm not doing this circus anymore." Then she stormed off stage. Everyone froze. Silence, until someone finally said what the rest had been quietly thinking. She needs to go. And that's when everything shifted. The cast had had enough. They started keeping records, not just memories, real. Documentation, dates, quotes, emotional meltdowns. Some even captured video snippets, just in case things spiraled further. And they did. This wasn't petty drama. These were professionals. They knew the difference between difficult and destructive. When they went to the producers, they brought more than gossip. They brought evidence, a formal complaint, allegedly signed by nearly half the cast, laid everything bare. One line reportedly read, "Rehearsals have become toxic, unstable, and dominated by one person's emotional volatility." Still, the producers didn't act right away, so the cast escalated it. According to insiders, a small group, representing the ensemble, key roles, even a vocal coach, requested a private meeting. And in that room, they didn't beg. They didn't threaten. They made it clear, "We're not stepping back on that stage if she's still here." The producers were stunned. One asked, "You're asking us to fire the lead?" And the cast replied, "No, we're saying we can't keep working unless you do." That's not rebellion, that's survival. That conversation flipped the power dynamic. Rachel disappeared from rehearsals. No explanation, no official word. But rehearsals moved on, scenes were reassigned, stand-ins filled the gaps. The creative team started rebuilding the show. Without her, it was silent but decisive. No press release, no social media drama, just absence. Her name vanished from the schedule. Her dressing room emptied overnight, and the mood backstage? Completely different. One performer said it felt like finally being able to breathe again. No more tiptoeing, no more fear of outbursts, just focus. Peace, progress. Behind closed doors, the producers scrambled to manage the fallout. They contacted Rachel's reps, her agency. They even floated a shared lead idea, splitting Eva's role between her and the understudy. It didn't fly. The cast was done compromising. This wasn't about ego anymore. It was about protecting the show. Meanwhile, rehearsals didn't just resume. They thrived. Stepping up to lead, a quiet understudy. She had been there the whole time, watching, learning, preparing. She knew every note, every mark, every beat. And when her moment came, she didn't hesitate. She transformed into Eva effortlessly. No tantrums, no drama, just power, presence, and professionalism. The cast couldn't believe the difference. Some even said she outshined Rachel from day one. Suddenly, the energy backstage changed. Morale soared. People started staying late, singing louder, dancing harder. It wasn't just a new lead. It was a fresh start. But outside the theater, the world hadn't caught up. Rachel's followers still thought she was headlining. Her once busy Instagram, filled with moody rehearsal selfies and cryptic captions, went dark. No posts, no stories, just silence. Then came the leaks. Theater gossip accounts exploded. A TikTok video claiming Rachel had been dropped after a cast rebellion racked up millions of views. The comments? Brutal. She tried to gaslight a full ensemble. I'd pay double to see literally anyone else. Hashtags blew up. Zegler out, free the cast. Justice for Evita. Social media turned into a war zone. A few loyal fans defended her, blaming envy or misunderstanding. But most people, they weren't shocked. They remembered the attitude, the interviews where she shaded peers, clips of her correcting journalists, mid-sentence, moments where she seemed to believe she was carrying entire productions solo. One viral behind-the-scenes moment resurfaced, where Rachel, wearing a plastic crown, joked, "They'll thank me when this wins a Tony." In a behind-the-scenes clip, Rachel Zegler looked straight into the camera and muttered, "They'll hate me for this too." The response? Brutal. We already do. Congrats on manifesting your downfall. Even the fan pages, those same ones that once called her the future of musical theater, started disappearing. Some fell completely silent. Others shifted focus, celebrating the quiet brilliance of the unnamed understudy. Memes began circulating. Talent without tantrums. Eva, minus. The ego. Finally, a revolution that works. At the same time, the official Evita account fell oddly quiet. No new portraits, no flashy mentions, no Rachel. Just vague rehearsal snaps, group shots with no captions, and one neutral post about a new creative vision. But fans are quick. They read between the lines. Rachel wasn't resting. She wasn't reworking. She was gone. Backstage, her name became taboo, like she'd been edited out of the show's story. A ghost, haunting a musical that had already moved on. And while her team scrambled for a narrative, the production pressed forward. Previews were coming with or without her. The new lead? A revelation. Industry whispers praised her restraint, her magnetism, her presence. One director who caught an early performance reportedly said, "This is what Eva Peron was always meant to feel like." Buzz spread. Critics got wind. The mood. Backstage transformed, unified, calm, hopeful. It was as if a storm had passed and the real work could finally begin. Rachel, meanwhile, vanished. No press, no red carpet, no papped airport sightings. Just silence. And in this industry, silence doesn't mean rest. It means damage control. Or worse, blacklist. The official playbill changed, quietly. No press release, no statement, just one less name in the spotlight. And a new one in bold. It was the confirmation everyone already suspected. Rachel Zegler was no longer playing Eva Peron. For the cast, it was relief. For the crew, it was repair. For Rachel, it was a harsh, undeniable wake-up call. Because theater doesn't hand out second chances like Hollywood does. In film, a good apology and a new look can flip the script in 6 months. But in theater, it's about rhythm, humility, respect. You either blend with the company or break it. Rachel didn't blend. She broke it and insisted the fragments were art. People had seen this coming. The awkward interviews, the subtweets, dressed in faux empowerment. The soundbites designed to trend. It worked for a while. Being brash, young, and hyper-aware was a brand. But theater doesn't want a brand. It wants a partner, a collaborator, a teammate. The cast wasn't asking for her silence. They were asking for her presence, and she couldn't, or wouldn't, give it. Behind closed doors, her team tried spinning a new angle. Creative burnout. Personal growth. But no one was buying it. Not when scenes had to be rewritten. Not when staff refused to adjust for her schedule. Not when half the cast reportedly signed a letter to get her removed. Insiders say the new actress is being shielded, her name kept low profile, her performance still a whisper. But what a whisper. Electric, charismatic, precise. The crew calls her a leader without ego. Some even say she saved the show. And as producers reoriented the spotlight, critics were quietly invited to those first previews. If the new Eva delivered what insiders promised, this wouldn't just be a recovery for Evita, it'd be the launch of a star. Meanwhile, Rachel's fandom fractured. A few held the line, crying sabotage, calling her too visionary. But most faded into silence. The edits stopped. The hype dried up. What remained wasn't a misunderstood genius. It was an artist who treated a legacy production like her personal playground and expected a standing ovation. But the silence told the truth. No co-stars stepped up, no directors defended her, no colleagues posted cryptic "she's misunderstood" tweets. The PR machine wasn't sleeping, it was shut down on purpose. There are whispers that Rachel is eyeing a small comeback, an indie project, maybe a streaming show. But after Evita, no studio wants headlines. They want harmony, and Rachel hasn't shown she can offer that. What stings most? She was close. So close to something truly special. She had the stage, the part, an audience waiting to be moved. And she lost it. Not from lack of skill, but from a misplaced sense of invincibility. She could have inspired. She could have led. She could have grown into greatness. Instead, she stormed offstage mid-song, clapped back at every critic, and expected loyalty to follow. But theater doesn't reward volume. It rewards generosity. Timing, discipline, respect. Rachel had the tools. She just never learned to wield them without burning the house down. Now the curtain's up. The energy is new. The cast is reborn. Even the director is reportedly calling this version of Evita the most collaborative of my career. The same crew that once dreaded their call sheets, they're arriving early, staying late, and, perhaps most tellingly, laughing backstage. The production has found its rhythm. And the one person absent from that harmony? Rachel. She once tweeted, "This role will change me." Maybe it did. Not by making her stronger, but by making her disappear. Because in a business where reputation travels faster than talent, Rachel Zegler didn't just make headlines. She became the one no one wanted to click, and when the curtain finally rose, it rose without her.